My husband John, 40-year-old male, and I, 26-year-old female, have been together for 5 years, married for 3, and have 3 kids, ages 3 months, 2, and 4. We met when I was still in college, working part-time as a nanny for his friend's family. We crossed paths a few times at my nanny family's functions, and my nanny family gave him my number and encouraged me to go out with him. Initially, I only did because I didn't want to offend them, but we ended up hitting it off really well. I accidentally got pregnant with my oldest about a year into seeing him. 3 kinds of birth control and still got pregnant. What are the chances, huh? At first, I was devastated because I was just about to graduate and had already been offered an amazing internship in my field. The internship would require me to move across the country, and so I was already planning to leave my current job and break up with John so I could pursue my dream job. So my initial plan was to terminate the pregnancy. However, long story short, I ended up staying with John and having my oldest, but under the agreement that I would start working as soon as possible, and John would pay for childcare so I didn't have to be a stay-at-home mom and permanently walk away from career goals that I had worked very hard toward for basically my whole life. As soon as my son was born, I fell instantly in love, and the few resentments I had about the way things turned out completely disappeared. While I did stay home with him for the first year because I couldn't stand to leave him for more than a few hours, I was open with John about my plans to find a job in my field as soon as I could, and he was always on board and never expressed any issue with it. John and I got married when my oldest was 1, and John started pushing me to have more kids, but I refused because I felt ready to start working. I ended up getting a really great job offer at the company I'm still with today. I started looking for nannies and was put in contact with our current nanny, Sarah, 21 years old female. She has honestly been a godsend. She is the sole reason I made it through being apart from my baby, and she does such an amazing job. I honestly cannot imagine my life without her. Shortly after I started my job, I accidentally got pregnant again, another birth control baby, and my husband tried to talk me into staying home with the kids again after my second was born. But I was too happy with my job. They offered to let me work from home part-time, which worked out perfectly. My husband wanted to cut back Sarah's hours, as I would be home a lot more, but I refused because while I'd be able to breastfeed and help take care of my newborn, I still wanted her there to help with our rambunctious toddler while I was working. Our arrangement worked out really well, and I recently did the same with our third baby, while Sarah watches the older 2 during the days when I'm working. Sarah and I get along great. We have a lot in common, and I see her as a friend as much as an employee. My kids love her very much and ask about her whenever she isn't there. Since I was also a nanny, I am able to work with her effectively, and I have so much respect and admiration for the job she does with my kids, as she's even more patient and hands-on than I ever was with my nanny family's kids. Even though we pay her a lot, I honestly think she's worth even more than that, and I tip her as much as I can. For some reason, my husband does not feel the same way. He is very critical of her, not to her face. He has very little interaction with her, as most days she leaves before he gets home. To me, he is always nitpicking how she does things, like if a few toys get left out in the playroom, if she used too much gas in the car, if she got fast food for the kids instead of cooking them a meal, etc. He tells me she is not worth what we're paying her, and that she's doing an easy job I was fine doing for free. This irritates me like nothing else, because while yes, I don't find looking after my kids particularly difficult, I wouldn't call it remotely easy, and it's much different when it comes to dedicating most of your free time to looking after someone else's kids. And Sarah goes above and beyond to make sure my kids are safe, happy, and entertained every day, and even does some preschooling with them. Last week, my husband confronted me with some of the footage from our security cameras of Sarah neglecting our kids. The whole thing was completely ridiculous. There was one video where she left my 2-year-old in her high chair crying for 5 minutes while taking my 4-year-old to the bathroom 3 feet away. There was one where she let them stay up past bedtime to finish a movie while she worked on schoolwork. All relatively innocuous things like that I couldn't care less about. The worst of it was a video of her texting on her phone for like 30 minutes while my kids were playing, which we have asked her to not be on the phone while playing with the kids. But even though she technically did something wrong, she's a human being. She's not going to be perfect 100% of the time. Once he was done showing me, I asked him, "Is the neglect in the room with us right now?" And that made him really mad. He accused me of not caring about our children's well-being because if I did, I would agree with him that we need to fire her. I told him we're firing her over my dead body, and if it wasn't for her, our children would actually be neglected because we both work full-time. He told me that Sarah was trying to take over my role as a mother in my children's eyes, and she was coming between me and our family, and if I cared about our family, I would want to fire her too. I laughed in his face and told him I would rather divorce him and pay for her myself than fire her and quit my job. He stormed out and hasn't spoken to me since. Am I the idiot? Edit. Thank you so much to everyone who has offered advice and support. I'm trying to read over everyone's comments and process everything. Honestly, I thought this was just an annoying, ongoing argument between myself and my husband about our nanny, but you all have opened my eyes to a much deeper issue. Firstly, I want to say I'm a bit worried it came across like I resent getting pregnant or having kids because I really don't. I love my kids more than anything, and I would not trade them for the life I wanted before, or choose my job over them if it ultimately came to that. I do stress about the accidental pregnancies a lot because it makes me feel out of control of my own life and body, but I hope that doesn't come across as me having regrets over them. The last thing I want is for people to think my kids are a burden who have ruined my life because they are a gift and have brought more love to my life than I knew I was capable of. I really don't feel trapped by them or anything like that. On that note, however, a lot of people have pointed out the possibility of my husband tampering with my birth control. This has me really shaken up. I'm not going to lie. The scariest thing about this is that he's a medical professional and started writing my scripts for birth control after we got married. And he often recommends and prescribes me supplements and things for my health. He also convinced me that IUDs were dangerous and ineffective, and that it's not uncommon to get pregnant on birth control if you're extremely fertile. I don't even want to think about the implications of him having messed with something to get me pregnant. I trust him a lot with medical decisions and opinions, and while I know he's not as vigilant about birth control as I am, I didn't even consider the chance he was actively sabotaging it. Not really sure where to go from here or how to investigate this further. Many of you were concerned about having an emergency fund/safety plan, and I do keep my finances separate from his. And luckily, I make good enough money that I could leave if I really needed to. Thank you again to everyone who commented. I will try to update for those of you who asked. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. A mid-30s man pursues a college student, gets her number, and is recommended by her employer. She only starts dating him to not offend her employer. She just happens to get pregnant right before breaking things off to pursue opportunities on the other side of the country. She repeatedly gets pregnant right as she re-enters the workforce to continue growing her career. Every time this relationship has progressed to the next big step has been against OP's initial wishes. I'm feeling like John has been subtly steering things from the start. Comment 2. Not the idiot. My partner and I had nannies as both of us had our own businesses. They were all amazing, and to this day they are in our kids' 17-year-old female, 15-year-old male lives, not as nannies, but as friends. Your husband is a jerk. Nannies are worth their weight in gold and then some. Let him sleep on the couch till he comes to his senses, and stick with your career, and more importantly, maintain a separate emergency fund account. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been going on. Thank you for all your support and advice. It's really helped me through this difficult time. After my husband confronted me about the security camera footage of our nanny, Sarah, things have only gotten worse. He's been constantly monitoring the cameras and nitpicking every little thing she does. It's gotten to the point where he's even criticizing the way she interacts with our kids, saying she's too affectionate with them and trying to replace me as their mother. I've tried to reason with him, explaining that Sarah is just doing her job and that our kids love her, but he won't listen. He's become obsessed with the idea that she's a threat to our family and needs to be fired immediately. The tension between us has been obvious, and it's starting to affect our kids. They can sense that something is wrong and have been acting out more than usual. It breaks my heart to see them caught in the middle of this. Last night, things came to a head when my husband gave me an ultimatum. He said that if I didn't fire Sarah, he would leave and take the kids with him. I was shocked and devastated. I never thought he would go that far. I tried to talk to him to make him see reason, but he wouldn't budge. He said that he couldn't stand by and watch as another woman took over his role as a father and husband. I told him that he was being ridiculous, and that Sarah was just doing her job, but he wouldn't listen. In the end, I had to make a choice. I couldn't bear the thought of losing my kids, so I agreed to let Sarah go. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Sarah has been such an important part of our family for the past few years, and I know my kids are going to be devastated when they find out she's gone. I called Sarah this morning to break the news, and it was just as awful as I imagined. She was shocked and upset, but she handled it with such grace and understanding. She told me that she loved our kids like they were her own and that she would miss them terribly, but that she understood the situation I was in. As I hung up the phone, I couldn't help but feel like I had made a terrible mistake. Sarah has been such a vital part of our family, and I don't know how we're going to manage without her. I'm worried about the impact this is going to have on my kids and on my own ability to balance work and family. But even more than that, I'm worried about my marriage. I never thought my husband would be capable of something like this, and it's made me question everything I thought I knew about him. I can't help but wonder if there's more going on here than just his issues with Sarah. I've been thinking a lot about our relationship over the past few days, and I've started to notice some patterns that I hadn't seen before, like how he's always been possessive and controlling, even from the beginning. I used to think it was just because he loved me so much, but now I'm not so sure. There have been other red flags too, like how he's always been critical of my friends and family, and how he's tried to isolate me from them over the years. I used to brush it off as him just being protective, but now I'm starting to see it in a different light. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know that I need to start putting my own needs and the needs of my children first. I can't keep sacrificing my own happiness and well-being for the sake of my marriage. Thank you again for all your support and advice. It's been a tough week, but knowing that I have people in my corner has made all the difference. I'll keep you all updated as things progress. Am I the idiot for letting my sister babysit and then getting reported to CPS for my bedroom activities? I, 43-year-old male, have been married to my wife, 45-year-old female, for 15 years now. We have 3 kids, 9-year-old female, 6-year-old female, and 2-year-old male. My wife and I are kinky. We are mainly into bondage and some mild impact play, relevant. Since we had kids, we had to cut back on our playtime. Maintaining a vanilla intimacy life is already challenging with 3 kids, let alone carving out the kind of alone time needed to safely engage in BDSM. About a month ago, we asked my sister, 48-year-old female, to take the kids for a weekend so we can have some alone time. She agreed to pick them up from our house on Friday evening and drop them off on Sunday night. Saturday evening, while we were engaging in some bondage and impact play, my sister starts blowing up my phone. By the time I was able to answer, I had to take care of my wife's safety first. My sister is knocking our door down. We were frantic and didn't do a good enough job at hiding the rope marks on my wife's wrists. My sister says that her daughter is in the hospital, just a simple sprain while playing soccer, and she needs to go. And we didn't notice, but she noticed my wife's bruises. The next day, she arranges some alone time with my wife and tells her if I'm harassing her, then she will support her to report me and leave me. My wife was embarrassed, but she explained the whole thing to my sister. Then she told me what happened. I talked with my sister and also explained the situation, even if it was very mortifying. She seemed to accept our explanation. Fast forward 2 weeks and we get the cops and a CPS agent at our front door. Apparently, there was an anonymous complaint that I was physically harassing my wife and kids. I was treated like a criminal. The kids were questioned separately, as was my wife. I didn't even think about my sister, but my wife did. She took everyone to our bedroom, showed them our toys, and even offered to show them some homemade movies if it was going to convince them. Thankfully, they believed her and then left. My wife again called my sister, who admitted to calling the cops multiple times. But when they did nothing, she called CPS and hoped that they would investigate. My wife again showed her our toys, went into explicit details I never wanted anyone to know about our intimate life, and finally my sister was convinced. She said that she was sorry, but she was only doing what she thought was right. But I was deeply hurt that she thought that I was capable of doing what she accused me of, that she could have cost me my kids, my freedom, and my job. So I told her that I am not ready to forgive her. She says that I am the AH, that it was a logical conclusion and that I should be happy that she is willing to go this far to protect my wife and kids. So am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update, Comment 1. Not the idiot. Anyone who thinks I'm a dangerous criminal is no longer welcome in my life. Anyone who calls CPS to have my kids removed from my home is no longer welcome in my life. Frankly, I would feel unsafe with my kids around someone who so easily believes I could be hurtful. Who knows what else they'll talk themselves into? Your sister sat your wife down, talked to her, and still called CPS. She's not someone I'd ever trust around your kids ever again. She's going to keep going until she's proven right. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I understand the initial talk she had with your wife, but that's where it should have ended. I understand that a lot of people lie and try to cover up about abuse, but when she was told that this was a consensual BDSM combined with the fact that she had the kids so that you guys could have some alone time, I think most people would have realized what was going on and moved on. Also, she called CPS when she had seen no kind of abuse with the kids. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a week since everything went down with my sister, and I've had some time to process everything that's happened. After the cops and CPS left, my wife and I sat down to have a long talk. We both agreed that we needed to be more careful about our BDSM activities, especially with the kids around. We decided to invest in a lockbox to keep our toys and ropes hidden away when not in use. It was a difficult conversation, but we both knew it was necessary to protect our family. A few days later, my sister reached out to me again. She wanted to apologize in person for the misunderstanding and the trouble she caused. I was hesitant at first, but my wife encouraged me to hear her out. We met up at a local coffee shop, just the two of us. My sister looked genuinely remorseful as she explained her thought process. She said that when she saw the marks on my wife's wrists, her mind immediately went to the worst-case scenario. She had a friend who was in a hurtful relationship, and she didn't want my wife to go through the same thing. She admitted that she should have talked to us more before jumping to conclusions and involving the authorities. As I listened to her, I couldn't help but think back to our childhood. Growing up, my sister was always the protective one. She would stand up to bullies on my behalf and make sure I was safe. I realized that her actions, while misguided, came from a place of love and concern. I told her that I understood where she was coming from, but that her actions had serious consequences. I explained how the investigation could have torn our family apart and ruined my reputation. I also emphasized that my wife and I have a loving, consensual relationship, and that we would never do anything to harm each other or our children. My sister apologized again and asked what she could do to make things right. I told her that I needed some time to rebuild the trust between us. I also suggested that she educate herself on BDSM and the importance of consent in relationships. Over the next few days, my sister sent me some articles and resources she found on BDSM safety and consent. She also offered to babysit the kids so my wife and I could have some alone time. It was a small gesture, but it showed me that she was making an effort to understand and support our relationship. As the week went on, I found myself grappling with conflicting emotions. On one hand, I was still hurt by my sister's actions and the way she jumped to conclusions about my character. On the other hand, I knew that she was coming from a place of love and concern for my family. My wife and I had several discussions about whether or not to forgive my sister. We weighed the pros and cons and ultimately decided that holding on to the anger and resentment would only cause more harm in the long run. We agreed to forgive her, but also set some clear boundaries moving forward. I called my sister and told her that we had decided to forgive her. I emphasized that it would take time to fully rebuild the trust between us, but that we were willing to work on it. I also made it clear that if she ever had concerns about our relationship or our kids in the future, she needed to come to us directly instead of involving outside parties. My sister was grateful for the forgiveness and promised to do better in the future. She also offered to attend a BDSM education class with us, which I thought was a great idea. As the week came to a close, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. The events of the past few weeks had been stressful and emotionally draining, but I was proud of the way my wife and I had handled the situation. We had faced a difficult challenge together and come out stronger on the other side. Looking back, I realized that this experience had tested my loyalty to both my wife and my sister. It would have been easy to choose sides and cut ties with one or the other, but I knew that wasn't the right solution. Instead, I chose to find a way to maintain both relationships while also setting healthy boundaries. In the end, I learned that true loyalty isn't about blindly taking sides or holding grudges. It's about having difficult conversations, finding common ground, and working together to build stronger, more resilient relationships. And that's exactly what my wife, my sister, and I are committed to doing moving forward. Thanks for reading and for all your support. Am I the idiot for telling my girlfriend she can't quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom after our baby is born? My, male 29, girlfriend, female 23, Emily and I have been dating for 4 years and have lived together since last October. She graduated from college last year and was able to get a job that paid an okay salary for an entry-level position. She didn't like the job too much, but she mentioned that it had good opportunities for promotions and would look good on her resume, so she hoped to move on to more interesting work that she is more passionate about soon. This January, my girlfriend became pregnant with a girl by accident. It was unplanned, and we considered baby unaliving but decided to keep the baby. We have since been preparing for the birth. We have good relationships with both my and her parents, and both sets of parents have said they would be willing to babysit our daughter for free. Recently, my girlfriend told me that she would like to quit her job after the baby is born to be a stay-at-home mom, SAHM. Her reasons for doing so were, 1. She is getting very attached to our baby even though it's not born yet, and the idea of dropping her off with a babysitter, even if that babysitter is one of our parents who we know will take good care of her, makes her want to cry. 2. Her mom was a stay-at-home mom, which allowed her to have home-cooked meals every day and do lots of fun stuff that she couldn't do with a babysitter. She wants to provide the same experience for our daughter. 3. She no longer likes her job and is unsure if she even wants to continue down the same career path. She regrets her major in accounting and wishes she had majored in something she is passionate about, instead of something that just makes good money. 4. I recently got a promotion to a supervisory position in my company that came with a pay raise of nearly $40,000, so I can afford to support her and our daughter. 5. She didn't say it, but one of her friends recently gave birth and became a stay-at-home mom, so I'm sure that influenced her decision. She also tried to convince me by saying I would get more intimacy and BJ every day, now that she would have more free time and energy for intimacy, which I admit was tempting, and that she could cook all my favorite meals and do all the chores. I said no for a few reasons. 1. We were planning to buy a house in the next couple of years, and with me being the only one working, that would set us back by years in getting one. 2. I grew up poor. During my entire childhood, I only went to the movie theater a couple of times because my parents could not afford to take me out to do fun stuff like that often. For example, I got a new pair of shoes once a year and bought my clothes from Walmart. With both our incomes, we have been able to enjoy a very nice lifestyle. We both drive nice new cars, go shopping, or to nice restaurants or the movies regularly, and have also been on some nice trips and vacations. With only one income, we would have to curtail our spending by a lot. My girlfriend brought this up, but I don't really want to. With both of us working, we can keep our current lifestyle even after the baby. There are many things I still want to do and places I want to go to. And we would have to put all our life plans on hold for several years since my income alone would not be enough. So we would have to wait until I got even more raises or saved for a long time. 3. I just don't want the pressure of being the only person to provide for my family. 4. Most people don't like their jobs. From what she told me, she mainly just does not like her boss and finds the work boring. My mom had to work a physically difficult job while I was a baby, so compared to her and many other women, my girlfriend has it easy. Sometimes you just have to suck up having a job you don't like. Also, while telling her no, I might have said that the reason why she was feeling so attached to the baby was pregnancy hormones and they would soon pass. So yeah, not my best choice of words. I mentioned this to my friends and my family. I've been told by some people that a true man provides for his family and that I'm evil for wanting to separate a mother from her baby when I could afford to let her stay home. So am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. All your reasons aside, I wouldn't ever advise a woman to have a child and be a stay-at-home mom to a man she's not married to. The legal security is not there. If you pass away suddenly in an accident, she'll be in a bad spot, and with a huge gap in her resume. Comment 2. You guys aren't married, so she has zero protection for herself if you decide you want to leave. She needs to understand the real possibility that people break up, especially after the intense stress a new child brings, and she would be totally screwed. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a week since my last post and a lot has happened. First off, I want to thank you all for your comments and advice on my previous post. It really helped me gain some perspective on the situation with my girlfriend Emily, wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. After our initial conversation, things were a bit tense between us. Emily was upset that I didn't seem to understand her desire to be there for our daughter full-time. She felt like I was dismissing her feelings as just pregnancy hormones. I realized that I needed to have a more open and honest conversation with her about my concerns. We sat down and had a long talk about our future. I explained to her that while I understood her wanting to be there for our daughter, I was worried about the financial strain it would put on us. I grew up in a family that struggled to make ends meet, and I didn't want our daughter to experience the same hardships I did. Emily listened to my concerns and shared some of her own. She admitted that she was scared about the idea of leaving our daughter with someone else, even if it was our parents. She also confessed that she had been having doubts about her career path for a while now, and that the pregnancy had only amplified those feelings. As we talked, we realized that we needed to find a compromise that worked for both of us. We decided that Emily would take an extended maternity leave after the baby was born, and then we would reassess our situation. If she still felt strongly about being a stay-at-home mom, we would look into ways to make it work financially. Maybe I could pick up some extra shifts, or we could cut back on some of our expenses. But then, something unexpected happened. A few days after our conversation, Emily received a call from her boss. They offered her a promotion with a significant pay raise and the opportunity to work from home a few days a week. It was like a dream come true for her. She would be able to continue her career while also being there for our daughter. Emily was thrilled about the offer, but she was also hesitant to accept it. She worried that it would be too much to juggle work and being a new mom. We talked it over and decided that it was worth a shot. If it didn't work out, we could always reevaluate our options. The past week has been very eventful of emotions for both of us. We've had some tough conversations, but we've also grown closer as a couple. I've realized that being a good partner means listening to and supporting each other's dreams and desires, even if they don't always align with my own. Looking back, I can see how my own upbringing has shaped my views on work and family. Growing up, my parents worked long hours just to keep a roof over our heads. They rarely had time for family outings or vacations. I didn't want that for my own family, but I also didn't want to sacrifice our financial stability. Emily and I have a lot of challenges ahead of us as new parents, but I'm confident that we can face them together. We've learned the importance of open and honest communication, and we're committed to finding a balance that works for our family. Thanks again for all of your support and advice. It's been a crazy week, but I'm feeling hopeful about the future. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.